Hi everyone, Dave Cross again. I thought I would remake this video of the Azure Sapphire image being provisioned. The last couple of times the microphone hasn't been very functional. So basically what we have, at least in the development lab that we're working with to demonstrate this, we have Azure and some local resources configured for networks that we're going to be using the private subnets. We have some various development images that are in this lab that our developers are working on that have made available to us that we can provision and literally walk through the process. So in this case here, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing is I want to point out that we need to be able to see the images link specifically, and I keep pressing that each time, but if you do a search, click on all services, do a type for images, highlight the favorites, it should appear in your menu. And then by clicking on the menu, we should then see the various appliance images. And apparently there's a new one here, so I'm going to go ahead and give this one a try this morning. So at the images page, we're going to select the available images. This, I believe, would be what you would see as a subscription in a catalog that would be available to provision from a corporate account or some other type of Azure account. What we're going to provide here is just simply click to create VM. We're going to go through a couple of basic settings, and this will pull up the name, the SSH that we're going to use, and the various resources, and where we're going to define those resources that have been pre-configured. And I think we're going to go ahead and call this one sales decross 2, since I had another one. The SSD drive is a recommendation for these systems. And we're going to go ahead and give this a name. And I'll just call it myself, sales decross. The public key is something you should have generated, and preferably through PuttyGen as an example. You can download this free utility. But effectively what we want to define is generate an RSA key. And just click generate. We'll have to move our mouse around a few times to generate the randomness. Okay, and that process is done. So I'm going to go ahead and enter now my passphrase, which I'm going to keep to myself here. And then I am going to save this. And I'm going to save this for my development Azure area. Let's do demo key hub. And let's do, I need to redo that. Keep hub. And we'll do demo key proof. All right. And from here, what we want to do is we want to copy all of this, making sure you get the key number, which is at the very end of this, the RSA key and the serial number. And we're going to paste that into our window for connectivity. We have a development subscription already, and we're going to use some existing resources that, again, are already defined. And in our case, our location is US East, but these would appear for whatever regions you've defined through your Azure account. Now, the summary page here that we're going to come up to, we're going to define a size. And in the size, we want to make sure that we're not picking something too large, because you do have a choice of resources. But we want to match something that's similar. So we want to do something that's like 2 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes and 2 CPUs. And I have been using the B2S in our scenario for that case. So we're going to select our resource. We do not have any kind of high availability defined here. However, you could. But there are some things like the networks, again, that these are pre-configured settings that our development crew has already defined. So this is going to set up our subnet address that we're going to pull our IP from. We're then going to define a public IP address that we'll be able to access remotely. And then we have various firewall extensions and logs and settings, and whether or not we want to do auto shutdown and monitoring of the diagnosis. But we're going to pretty much keep everything the same and click on OK. Let's go ahead and save these and click OK. This should give me the summary page again. I can go ahead and wait for this validation. Looks good. And when I click OK, this is going to go ahead and generate this image. And this will take some time for this process to complete, approximately 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause, come back when this pops up as done, and we'll continue from there. Okay, everybody, I'm back, and it looks like we're complete. So that was about 15 minutes. Amazing how time flies when we're having fun. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the resource, and what we want to actually pull up at this point is the serial console, which is in preview mode. This is going to give us the low-level access to the system that we can see the boot process as it's working through. Now, there are a few things that I want to make note of at this point, and we are going to show you how to overcome this once this image is complete. But it's going to boot to a certain point. It's going to come up and show us that it's delaying the mounting of the root mount partition for 300 seconds or 5 minutes. And so there's going to be a delay. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, pause this. I'm going to wait for that 5-minute delay to occur. And once we're at the menu where we can configure the system, I'll go ahead and pop back in. Okay, I misspoke. Actually, just hitting the enter brings us back to the prompt. It'll be the next screen that will give us the delay. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as app admin, and this should then pull up the configuration menu. So you will not have a delay the first time this system boots for 5 minutes. It will be after this initial boot. Then we'll have the ability to modify that delay, and then we'll start up again. So here we need to, like any Sapphire appliance, go ahead and configure the things like a DNS domain, an IP, an interface, and so forth. And we're just going to make something up here. Go ahead and use NIST.gov. The executive at this point, really we're assuming that on the executive that you're going to have some type of VPN access to this cloud instance or to the edge or some type of way of split tunneling so that you're going to be able to communicate to the agent. So I don't really have that ability here. I just have a remote system to access a lab and build. So I'm going to set my own server here, but just know that you would need physical connectivity to make that work. And then in the time zones, we'll go ahead and define where we are. And yes, we accept that. And then lastly, we'll set the username and passwords for app admin and file admin. One thing to know for app admin is that you will need to unlock its account in order to access that information or access that account. And it'll give us a prompt for that as we proceed. All right, and this will be the prompt. So it'll tell us to go to the management system menu afterwards and to unlock the account. We're going to go ahead and continue. This is going to take about 15 minutes in the build. So I will pause 15 minutes. I'll be back once this is complete. I'm going to show the boot screen again, and it'll be at that point where we will have about that 5-minute delay for the first boot. So I'll delay and pause again, and we'll be right back. Just a quick time check. The first setup here, the first percentage setup is where it's building the mirror data. It does not take that long. It only takes a few minutes for this initial part. However, the actual image, as it starts to unpack the data, it will take about 10 minutes. So just as you're watching this, it'll keep you, prompted of what's going on the screen as you do these things to let you know the status. All right, and we're checking and it's copying over the contents now of that mirror into the gel partition that we then use to mount for the application. So another few minutes. Okay, and then after the initial copy of the files to the gel, it will then start mounting and copying to the mirror. So this is effectively the longer wait. So again, as you get to this point, go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, maybe 10 minutes from here, before we get to the point that it reboots. All right, so we're actually copied up the files, and it is now going to go ahead and start doing the actual configuration of scripts. And this is the automation part of our new appliance form factor in Azure, where it's building the underlying script and underlying support for that cloud environment. So this is going to unpack a little bit while. It'll be a few minutes still, and then we'll pop back in. Okay, and we're back, and it's rebooting now. So the system is complete, and it should be stopping all the services for us. And we'll then initiate this restart. And again, as I mentioned, it will come into pop into a screen that's going to give us about a 5-minute delay. You should see that the installation is complete, and as it reboots, again, we'll see the boot log process and the restart. Okay, and here's our reboot. I just want to go ahead and show this so that you know what a normal screen would look like, and actually that was very quick. So it's going to be 300 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and make that delay for you, and I will be back when this starts up, and we'll finish this up. And we're back, and it's reached its 5-minute wait and booting into our menu. So we should be able to go through here, set up our operator account. We're going to go ahead and make a couple changes to the bootloader so that we'll take away that delay. And then we're going to show you a few things with the PuTTY and how to access that. And use the key that we generated, and then we should be all set. So at the login prompt, we want to log in as app admin. I believe we want to navigate to management and system. There you go. And we want to add the operator account. So the operator account allows us the sudo access, and that's what we need from that perspective. Now from here, you can go ahead and define your other parameters in the appliance if you wish, but we're going to go ahead and jump forward and modify the bootloader. So effectively, I'm going to go ahead and just jump out of the shell. I'm going to then log in as incadmin, which is the OS shell user. And then we want to sudo as operator. And then navigate to the boot grub. And then we need to sudo vi, or whatever your editor preference is, grub cfg. Here we're going to, I'm just going to globally replace the 300 second for 60. And we're going to go ahead and save that. Now to reboot, you'll want to log back in as app admin. And I'm going to just simply shut this down. I want to make sure that this actually reboots and starts within the 60 seconds and not the 5 minutes, and we can finish there. All right, and it accepted our change. It's already come back to that point. Okay, and while this is setting up, we'll go ahead and set up the private address. We want to make sure that we can connect to this system over PuTTY and SSH. So at the summary level or overview of the instance or the virtual appliance, there's a connect string or connect menu, and that will show you the IP address string and the connect string using SSH, a user and password. So we can copy the IP address to the public. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PuTTY window. And in my session, I'm going to navigate to the SSH menu and the auth menu. There's a private key file for authentication. And here you want to load your private key that you had managed through the PuTTYgen and that we saved through this process. And once you've loaded that PuTTY key and have entered your session IP address for this instance, you should be able to pop that instance up and log in as your user. So I have this, and I need to then authenticate my passphrase. Now, once you have logged in as your user, this does not give you access or permission, so everything is locked down. You must sudo as another user, which is defined as operator or incadmin, and with those privileges that must be explicitly defined. So if I want to then log in as incadmin, I can sudo as incadmin. I'll then log in that shell, have access to opt and control, And from here, I can sue as app admin or operator, file admin, and so forth. Thanks for hanging in with me, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.